Welcome to the Not Old Better Show Good Housekeeping interview series on radio and podcast. The show covering all things health, wellness, culture, kitchen, cooking, and more. The show for all of us who aren't old, we're better. Each week, we'll interview superstars, experts, and ordinary people doing extraordinary things, all related to this wonderful experience of getting better, not just older. Now here's your host, the award-winning Paul Vogelzang.
Thanks, and welcome to another episode of Good Housekeeping's Good, Better, Best on radio and podcast, where we bring you trusted voices and real-world advice to help you live smarter, safer, healthier, and better at home, no matter your age or stage of life. I'm Paul Vogelzang, and today's episode is brought to you by Longevity Mitopure Gummies, the first-ever longevity gummies powered by Mitopure, a delicious, easy way to put more energy into your day. And today, we are digging into the nuts and bolts of home life with someone who's spent over 2 decades helping homeowners get the most out of their spaces, Dan DiClerico, director of the Home Improvement and Outdoor Lab at the Good Housekeeping Institute. Dan's tested thousands of tools, gadgets, and appliances. He's written just as many reviews, all to help families like yours figure out what's worth your money and what's just collecting dust or bound to. Dan is a former roofer, a lifelong remodeler, and a full-time dad, keeping up a century-old Brooklyn brownstone that's seen it all. Today, Dan DiClerico is going to give us practical advice for getting our home, fall and winter home, ready, including whether solar generators are a smart move, what makes a good air purifier actually good, and why rain barrels and gas generators might deserve a second look. This episode is for the doers, the fixers, the proud owners who want their homes to work for them, especially if you're part of our 50-plus age community looking to age safely, wisely, and comfortably in place. So stay with us. You'll hear what to do now, what to plan for later, and maybe even a few tools Dan thinks every homeowner over age 50 should have in the garage. Let's get into it with Dan DiClerico right here on Good, Better, Best. Good Housekeeping's Dan DiClerico is with us today. Dan, welcome to the program.
Paul, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting to talk to you. Really, I just say that, with some real sincerity and intent here, because I just think what you do is so fascinating. You've actually tested about every kind of home gadget. I love home gadgets, from air purifiers to solar generators. We're going to be talking about some of that stuff, but why don't you give us kind of this overview and tell us about some of the trends that you're seeing right now, especially those trends that might be for some of the older homeowners that, kind of are paying attention because they want to, age in place. They, might have families that are thinking about some of those kind of things. Maybe just give us a sense as to this broad trend that's going on.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for saying that about what I do. I've been in this for 25 years now, which is not what I kind of envisioned for myself when I was a kid. But I've really come to love it. And now that I'm myself am, becoming an older homeowner, I really appreciate all the expertise that I've picked up along the way, or knowledge, or whatever. But I mean, yes, certainly this whole idea of accessibility, or aging in place, as we call it, just continues to gather momentum. I mean, I've been reporting on this for as long as I've been doing this, but we all know the statistics and the numbers, and the aging population and older homeowners wanting to stay put in their homes, as opposed to maybe a generation ago when they were looking into assisted living facilities, or whatever it was. So that's a major trend. A major trend. Energy efficiency with energy costs and inflation, and just the cost of home ownership continuing on that upward trajectory. Anything homeowners can do to cut those energy costs, and any advice that we can give them, by testing the latest equipment, or systems coming into the home. So those are a couple of major things. I think that if there's an overarching trend, it's just like, how can I make life easier
Yeah.
for myself at home, whether that's, bringing convenience features or just lowering my operating costs.
That's great. Thank you. Well, let's talk about making life easier for ourselves because we're approaching the winter months when life gets a little bit more challenging, especially for transplants like me. And we live in a kind of the cold weather area of Virginia, and so it's really at top of mind for me and my wife and our family to kind of think about some cold weather prep, to think about some repairs that we might want to do. What are some of the top maintenance tasks that all of us really should be considering and that we just should not skip this season?
Yeah. I mean, home maintenance, you really hit on it. It's thinking about it, and it's
Mhm.
it's thinking ahead. So, I mean, one of the piece of advice I always give is, don't forget to have your heating equipment serviced. It
Mhm.
really you really need to have a professional in once a year, to service the equipment. Well, we're already a little bit late because ideally you're doing this in the summer months
Uh-huh.
when those contractors when they're less busy. Um, but just before you fire up the furnace or the boiler, whatever kind of system you may have, having a service, obviously you don't want it to conk out on the coldest day of winter, because on that coldest day of winter you are not going to get a professional in for a couple of days or whatever it might be. um so it's this idea of preventative maintenance. What can you do to get out in front of issues, problems before they become catastrophic? So another good example of that is insulating water pipes. A single burst pipe in a home can cause in excess of $5,000 worth of water damage. So that's another thing to stay on top of. It's kind of interesting with that one. You think frozen pipes, like the coldest parts of the Northeast, when in fact it's actually more temperate, mild, maybe where you are in Virginia, where it's that sudden cold snap where all of a sudden, I mean, we saw this in Austin, Texas, like several years ago, right, when they had that unexpected cold snap, and all these homeowners with these uninsulated water pipes suddenly dealing with burst pipes. And I mean, that was truly catastrophic. So that's, maybe a rare event, but, so it's these kinds of things, looking at the entire home, and, picking out any potential trouble spots.
Well, of course, you write about this for Good Housekeeping. You are a tester. You mentioned just a moment ago that you didn't necessarily foresee all of this 25 years ago, but you've worked as a roofer and a remodeler, so it lends itself so well to your expertise. And so I wonder if you could just tip us off perhaps and tell us, when is it the right time to call in a pro as opposed to being kind of a DIY, because you've kind of been doing it all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's a great question. One answer I give to that is we talk about the three T's. So time, talent, and tools. So all three of those things have to be in place for that do-it-yourself project to work. So painting is a great example in terms of like the skill level and the tools you need. It's it really checks every box if you're just painting a room. Now, let's say you want to paint your kitchen cabinets. Again, the skill level, is a little, maybe some more specialized tools, but all of a sudden to do that job properly, you got to you really need to take the doors off the boxes. You need to sand them down. You need to degrease them. You need to, allow drying time in between coats. So all of a sudden, it's like, wow, that's like a couple of weekends maybe. So you can see the time in that equation becomes like, oh, is this sort of time prohibitive? So always think about the three T's, and and whether it makes sense. So that's one answer to the question. But I do always kind of draw the line at electrical work.
Mhm.
Not only is it complicated, obviously, if you get it wrong, you're putting yourself, your family, your home at risk of fire, electrocution, that kind of thing. We see that with smart thermostats, which is something maybe we'll talk about more. But they're kind of positioned as this, DIY friendly upgrade, and they certainly can be. but they also can't be. Depending on the existing wiring, if you're in your home, you might open that box up and discover, oh shoot, I need a common wire. And you're thinking, wait, well, what is it? Or they just say a C wire sometimes. It's like, what is that? How do I know if I have one? If you're in an older home, you probably don't have one. So then it's like, can I put that in? Probably not.
Mhm.
So all of a sudden you're like, get me an electrician, stat. So
Yeah,
electrical work is
it's one
sorry.
of those. Yeah,
Yeah. Sorry.
no, that's good. Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off.
No. I trailed off there. I was going to say it again, but
Yeah,
uh,
good.
which I'm happy to. But if we're
Well, I want to talk to you about something that's getting an awful lot of attention these days. We recently here in our house, we've recently added a generator. We have a solar generator separate from that. Certainly, it kind of moved up in terms of prioritization in our house because of kind of our family situation with a young grandson. But are these practical really for the average homeowner? Is there a special case that you might kind of establish as being must have for some of us that might be thinking about a generator, or should we all be kind of thinking in terms of outages and being a little bit more energy independent?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we're seeing with the uptick in extreme weather, like more and more outages. You've got an aging electrical grid on top of that. So even if, sunny blue skies, you could still potentially have some kind of blackout or brownout. So yeah, some source of backup power for the home is, I think it used to be a luxury. I think more and more it's a home essential. Yeah, you mentioned solar generators. I mentioned being in this business for 25 years. For the first 20 years, really, it was gas generators.
Hmm.
I mean, that was the option. Um, and they do a great job. But there are some, significant drawbacks, first and foremost, kind of the safety factor. Carbon monoxide, the potential for that getting into the home and poison, causing poisonings. But you have to have fuel, on hand. So the arrival of solar generators to this category, it's one. If I think about my career, it's kind of like one of the biggest. Um, I hate to say like game changers, but it truly, it's really kind of transformed this category. So we are, here at the Institute are pretty high on solar generators as an emissions free alternative to the traditional gas generator that people have used to power their homes during power outages for decades and decades.
Good to know. I want to talk to you about air purifiers because they're everywhere now too. Are these all kind of on parity? Are they all created equally? And how do we kind of evaluate them, especially for those of us who are a little bit older? We might have some allergies or some respiratory
Yeah.
conditions. Yep.
Yeah, no, this is a category that, especially during the pandemic, I think for obvious reasons, concerns around, germs and viruses in the air just really exploded. So you went from a handful of brands to, any brand out there that was, even mildly adjacent to sort of indoor air quality was coming out with their air purifier, which is a little bit of a red flag, right? For
Mm.
for us consumers, like, wait a second, like I used to make toaster ovens. Now you're making air purifiers. So I mean that's one thing we do always emphasize. Go go with a trusted brand, an established brand, a brand that has been in this space for, years and decades. Because to come at your question more directly, no, they're not all created
Hmm.
equal.
Hmm.
One thing we always say to look for is what's known as a true HEPA filter.
Yeah.
This is going to give you the highest level of protection against airborne pollutants, contaminants into the home. Like, we can get into the science, but, zero point zero 0.03 microns essentially. So, just about anything dangerous in the home, a true HEPA filter is going to capture. But with some of these, more sort of knockoff brands, they'll talk about HEPA-like filtration. That's some language that you see, and that, right? Again, a red flag. This air purifier is not going to do as good a job as one of these better, more reliable, more established brands.
Before we get to Dan's take on gadgets that are actually worth your money this season, from air purifiers to solar generators, I want to pause and say thank you for listening. Whether you're tuning in while checking off your fall to-do list or just looking for smart ways to make your home more comfortable and efficient, we're glad you're here. All right. After this, we're going to get back to Dan DiClerico, who's about to share some surprising product insights from inside the Good Housekeeping Lab. Stay tuned. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're doing all the right things? Walking daily, staying active, eating better, and yet you're still tired, not bouncing back like you used to, or just not quite feeling like yourself? If that sounds familiar, you are not alone. I've been there too, but something new has made a real difference for me. I want to tell you about our sponsor today, Longevity Gummies, powered by Mitopure, the first ever urolithin A gummy that's clinically proven to support strength, energy, and healthy aging right down to the cellular level. Yes, cellular health. That's where it all begins. Our energy, our strength, our recovery, even our mental clarity. It's all connected. And as we age, those cellular batteries don't hold the same charge. But these gummies, they help recharge those batteries. In fact, they've been shown to increase muscle strength by up to 12% after just 16 weeks. That's real. It's measurable. That is improvement. And not from another pill, but from a delicious, clean, vegan gummy that fits easily into your daily routine. I keep mine on the kitchen counter. It's the easiest thing I do for my health every day. And honestly, I've noticed the difference. More steady energy, better recovery from workouts, and a little more pep in my step on those long walks that I enjoy so much with our dog. If you're looking to not just add years to your life, but life to your years, I really encourage you to try these. If you want to stay strong and energized now and as you age, then you have to try Mitopure Gummies. My friends at Timeline Nutrition are offering 20% off just for Not Old Better Show listeners. Head over to timeline.com/NOB to get started. That's timeline.com/NOB. All of this will be in our show notes. And trust me, your cells will thank you. Good Housekeeping's Dan DiClerico is with us today. Dan is the Director of Home Improvement and Outdoor at the Good Housekeeping Institute. Dan, it's so great to talk to you. I want to talk for just a second about outdoor and particularly outdoor improvements that really make a difference. One of the things that I know that you've spent a fair bit of time on is thinking about rain barrels of all things, and very valuable, especially for times when we might just be needing some additional water or to have kind of a backup. So tell us a little bit about keeping it simple there with rain barrels and how we might get a little bit of assistance with our water bills and what we should be looking for.
No, they can be a great addition. I mean, as water costs along with everything else, have been going up. If you're in a drought prone area, it's a great way to capture that water and to help with irrigation for the lawn and yard. It's fairly basic, but there are some caveats. First of all, there are some regulations to be aware of. There are, believe it or not, this was sort of surprising to us when we were doing the research, but they're illegal in some municipalities. So making sure before you go to the trouble of purchasing and installing a rain barrel, make sure they're allowed in your community. And just to explain, if you're taking 50 gallons of rainwater and you live somewhere that doesn't get a lot of rainwater, if every single home on the block is doing that, then the community supply of water is gonna start to take a hit in a noticeable way. But assuming they're fair game where you live,
Hmm.
it's a fairly simple contraption.
Hmm.
There is a little bit of you're probably gonna have to modify your gutter system because most of them are designed to tie into a downspout. So it's not prohibitively complicated or difficult, but just it's not like you just stick the barrel out in the backyard and catches the water. There is there is a little bit of installation involved, and yeah, but otherwise, yeah, it can be a great solution.
Hmm. I want to talk to you about aging in place. You mentioned it a few minutes ago, and certainly it really we might revisit this subject at some point in the future and just talk about it because it's a biggie. My own mom, just to personalize this just slightly, left our family home at age 95, and we had to do a fair number of kind of upgrades as well as just some changes to the house up until she moved out. But maybe tell us about some of the things that you recommend for aging in place that really are going to add some comfort, some energy efficiency, and then, of course, some safety.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, it's funny. I had a call this morning with a brand, an elevator um, brand. They're actually based overseas, and they're looking to break into this market. So they kept referring to lifts.
Uh-huh.
Uh, um, but I mean, that's obviously that's on a different level. But listening, hearing the sort of their market data, like, yeah, it just is another indication of just how important these considerations are. Now, this is still sort of a six-figure solution in a lot of cases. So certainly not something we are pushing hard. But there are so many less expensive ways to modify the home to make it safer or more convenient or more comfortable. I'm a big fan of smart home technology for
Yeah.
this application specifically. I've always said s- the best thing about smart home technology is like the peace of mind,
Hmm.
that it can bring. Being connected to the home at all times. Something like a smart lock
Hmm. Hmm.
on the home. First of all, it eliminates the need for keys. So
Hmm.
if you're someone who perhaps suffers from arthritis, just being able to walk up to the door and have it open and then lock behind you,
Hmm.
there's both convenience and peace of mind there. Um, but there's also sensor kind of all kinds of sensor technology. If you're, in what we call the sandwich generation, right, where you have an older an older parent who wants to remain independent at home,
Yeah.
um, sensor technology, and obviously this is like a delicate conversation. Your older parent needs to buy into this, but
Yeah.
having sensors throughout the home so that you're able to monitor them in a relatively not non invasive way, just to know that, okay, mom's gone into the refrigerator, or whatever it may be. So I think smart home technology in various forms is going to continue to play an important role in this whole kind of aging in place transformation of our homes.
It's really fascinating. Well, I personalized it just a bit ago, and I wonder if you did the same. And maybe tell us, about your own home. Maybe share a story of your own renovation, perhaps a gadget that you put in place that really kind of changed the way your family interacts with the home. And you mentioned smart technology. Maybe touch on smart thermostats, and then maybe tell us some
Mm.
stuff. Was it worth the money?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, a few things. So yeah, I did. I live in Brooklyn.
Uh
My
huh.
wife and we had two kids. We bought and renovated a brownstone out in Brooklyn. This was a few years ago at this point. Um, and wow, what an experience can I just say to start? It wasn't my first renovation. We had a smaller home that we did some work to, and as you mentioned, I worked on roofing and remodeling crews. So I swung a hammer and
Yeah.
such. But it was to tackle something on that scale
Uh-huh.
was a real test of my knowledge, of my patience, of my relationship with my wife. It really.
I hear you.
We
I
came
know.
through it, but wow.
Yeah.
So sorry, that was not your question. You're like, Dan,
No,
I'm not
no, it's good.
interested.
Just like
um,
the rest of
yeah, yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, the one of the best decisions we made was putting in a glass wall system. Nano Wall is the brand that we went with. Although this is another category that's really, really grown in recent years. So at the back of the house where the kitchen is, leading out onto the patio space, not an inexpensive decision.
Mhm,
Just to be
mhm,
straight, it really
mhm.
cost a lot more than we intended. We were just going to put a simple French door back there. But what happened was the contractors had to sort of blow out that back wall for various structural reasons, and all of a sudden we saw the light coming in, and
Yeah,
decided to stretch and
yeah.
make this decision. But it's we talk, I don't know, the biophilia. I don't know if that's a term you or your listeners
Tell us.
here.
I'm
So biophilia is the human connection to nature, how we're
okay.
drawn. So biophilic design is homes that foster that.
Uh-huh.
And it could be with the use of naturalistic materials, but also what I'm describing here, like creating views and visual connection to the outdoors. So that's what this glass wall system has done for us. And really, I have to say, this is 5 years on, and I walk down the stairs into the kitchen, and I'm just created with this view of the outside, and the light coming in, and it brings me joy. It really
That's nice.
does.
Wonderful.
But that really wasn't maybe what you were.
No, that's super helpful.
uh,
That's wonderful.
um, but back to the technology.
Yeah.
I talked about smart home technology and the peace of mind. So,
Mm,
smart smoke alarms, connected smoke
mm,
alarms, is for somebody. I don't travel, all the time, but a few times a year, I'm away from home for several days,
mm,
and just knowing that, God forbid, something happened, I'd get an alert on my phone and be able to, react accordingly. So, yeah, smart smoke detectors. Sorry if I'm going on too long, but since you
that's
you
great.
mentioned smart thermostats, we made the decision, and maybe it's the second best, or maybe it's even the best, maybe even better than the Nano Wall. We put in a heat pump um,
Okay.
to both heat and cool the home. This is a another one of these. I'm overusing the term game changing, but heat pump technology really is transforming the whole HVAC
Hmm.
um, sector. I think down south homeowners are more used to hearing about it, but as the technology improves, it used to not be great for heating. In colder climates, because it couldn't do so efficiently. But over the last decade, they've really figured that out. Um, so that's what we did, and it's been great in terms of energy savings and comfort. The one issue with heat pumps, at least the one that we have, is they don't work with most smart thermostats. So I have not been able to make that specific upgrade,
Interesting.
putting in smart thermostats. There are some workarounds. There are some products out there, so it might be possible. But despite how often I recommend smart thermostats to other homeowners, I haven't been able to do that one myself yet.
Well, we are approaching the holidays, and I wonder if you tell us from the perspective of outdoor and home improvements, some of these gadgets, what are the top picks from the lab that would be especially helpful for this upcoming holiday gift season for some of the aging homeowners that are paying attention in their families?
Oh, gift ideas. Wow, that's okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
This might sound a little strange, but or a little funny. I'm actually on record saying I believe every home in America should have a bidet.
Mm. Wow. Okay.
I don't know. Do you have a bidet at
We do
home?
not. We do not
Okay,
have a bidet.
great.
Yeah.
Now I say that a little jokingly because again, it's not an inexpensive upgrade, but my gosh, is it worth it? And the price has really started to come down. There are some manual bidet seats that under $100. Some of them are as little as $50. So again, I don't know about giving it as a gift necessarily, but why not? I mean,
Yeah.
it is
Right.
provides such a better cleansing, hygienic experience. But for, excuse me, in all seriousness, for, people with limited mobility, arthritis or something, it makes, it possible to stay independent, at home, in the bathroom. So,
Mhm.
all kidding aside, a bidet I think is a great gift.
That's really wonderful. I that one would not have crossed my mind. We don't own them. I'm familiar, but that's a fantastic idea, especially from the aging in place and hygiene standpoint.
Yeah,
That's really helpful. Yeah, thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Well, Dan DiClerico, really just kind of one final question, and then I've got a couple of rapid fire questions for you. But I wonder if you just tell us just why trust Good Housekeeping. The world is full of gadgets these days. It's full of fads. There are influencers everywhere. Yet Good Housekeeping really stands apart.
Yeah. Oh gosh, no. This is really like a dream job for me.
Yeah.
Alluded at the top to working, whatever, 25 years. I started at This Old House.
Uh
I was
huh.
at Consumer Reports for about 10 years. That's where I got into product testing. I spent some time at Martha Stewart. What I say about Good Housekeeping is it sort of brings all of those together. We're getting hands-on testing products. We're giving advice on how to integrate them into the homes. We've got design experts on staff who are providing those insights. So it really is like just a one-stop shop for all your kind of home remodeling maintenance needs. And I think we do it, as good or better than anyone else.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I've got a couple of rapid fire questions I just want to hit you with, and just stream of consciousness. Just tell us the Dan DiClerico perspective on some of this. But what is the one tool that you think every homeowner over age 50 should own?
I would say a capable cordless drill.
Mm.
Every homeowner needs. If we're not talking power tools, just a really good tool set. With
Mhm,
the
mhm.
tape measure and the utility knife and the Phillips head screwdriver. I know exactly where mine is in the hallway closet. I probably pull that thing out 2 or 3 times a week. So a great cordless drill and a great tool set.
Well, we talked about rain barrels, but I want to just ask this real quickly, just as a rapid fire kind of version: rain barrel or smart sprinkler? What saves more money in the long run? More water.
Definitely, definitely a smart sprinkler.
Okay.
A little more investment up front, but over the long haul, you're gonna make that up, and it's a real kind of set it and forget it solution.
Some of this smart home technology is really coming on strong, so we really appreciate it. I think that might be another subject that we'll wanna talk to you about, Dan DiClerico. But final rapid fire for you today. You've been so generous with your time. Thank you. So here we are. We're in the fall. What is the must-do fall prep item? Do we need to clean the rain gutters or seal the windows?
Oh my god, it's not even close. Clean those gutters. You'll save yourself so many headaches.
Dan DiClerico. It's just great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Of course, Director of Home Improvement and Outdoor at the lab at Good Housekeeping Institute. I mean this. I'd love to have you back, Dan. This has just been a wonderful conversation. I know audience is just going to love this. But thank you so much for your generous time. Look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you so much, Paul. Really appreciate you.
That's going to wrap up our conversation with Good Housekeeping's Dan DiClerico. I hope you took away from this as much as I did, like why a solar generator might be a more practical than you think solution, or how something as simple as sealing your windows could save you a bundle this winter. Dan DiClerico's advice is full of common sense, tested knowledge, and just enough gadget talk to keep it fun and useful for every homeowner out there, especially those of us looking to stay safe and comfortable in the years ahead. If you'd like to hear more from Dan or check out his latest reviews and recommendations, head over to goodhousekeeping.com. And of course, you can find this episode and all of our previous conversations at notold-better.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay well. Remember, it's not about being old, it's about being better. And remember, today's episode has been brought to you by Longevity Mitopure Gummies, the first ever longevity gummies powered by Mitopure, a delicious, easy way to put more energy into your day. I'm your host, Paul Vogelzang. Thanks for spending time with us today. I hope you'll join me again next time on Good Housekeeping's Good, Better, Best interview series on radio and podcast. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Not Old Better Show Good Housekeeping interview series on radio and podcast. Good Housekeeping is more than just a magazine. It's a beacon of reliability, offering tested and trusted advice on everything from health and wellness to home improvement and recipes. With their iconic Good Housekeeping seal, you can trust the products and tips they recommend, knowing they've been thoroughly vetted for quality and effectiveness. To find out more about all of today's stories or to view our extensive back catalog of previous shows, simply visit notold-better.com. Join us again next time as we deep dive into some of the most fascinating real-life stories from across the world, all focused on this wonderful experience of getting better, not just older. Let's talk better. The Not Old Better Show Good Housekeeping interview series on radio and podcast.